everyone, welcome back. So as you can see, I'm in my kitchen today, and 3 years ago, my kitchen did not look like this at all. It definitely needed some updating when we first moved into it. So we ended up replacing all of the bottom cabinetry with cabinets from Menards, which we love. And then we replaced all of the countertops with black granite countertops. We replaced the appliances, and then we also put up some subway tile as our backsplash, all the way from the countertop to as far as we could go up the ceiling. Now, when it came to the upper cabinets, we ran out of money and unfortunately couldn't do upper cabinets anywhere. So instead we put in some open shelving, and I just used some wood from Home Depot and some brackets off of Amazon. And I do love the open shelving look on the one side of my kitchen above my where my stove is. But on the other side of my kitchen, I am not loving the two open shelving. I just don't love the way it looks over here. And I can't get rid of the soffits, unfortunately. So it kind of just drags this whole space down and your eye just doesn't go up far enough. So I want to put some cabinetry over here on this side and get rid of this open shelving. So that's what I'm going to do today. Now, I did get on Menards' website and try to get some cabinetry to just put here, but unfortunately it was still going to be out of my budget. So we're gonna go a different route and make our own cabinetry. I'm gonna do some countertop cabinetry. I drew out a whole plan, and it's not the greatest drawing, but it kind of helps for me when I have something in my head to get it out on paper and kind of just write down measurements and things like that. So that's what I did. We have kind of like an open shelving cabinet look with some arches at the top, and then on the bottom I'm going to hopefully do an appliance garage. But as I work through this, things could definitely change. We could do doors, we could X out the appliance garages, who knows? But this is kind of what the basics are for now, and that is what my plan is. So I want to bring you along, show you how I'm going to do that, and update this space over here. So let's get started. So I went to Home Depot, and for the structure of my cabinets, I am going to use these 1 by 12 by 8 foot boards. I'm making 2 cabinets that are 4 feet tall by 30 inches wide by 12 inches deep. So I am basically just going to cut 2 of these boards in half. So that will give me my 4 feet for my height. And then I'm gonna cut another board, and that is going to be my top board and one of my bottom boards, and that's gonna be at 28.5 inches. And then that way when we put it all together, it'll be 30-inch cabinet, hopefully. All right, so now that I have my pieces cut, I pretty much laid out how one cabinet is going to look. So these 2 pieces on the side are 4 feet high, and then this piece and the top piece are 28.5 inches. So it makes this whole thing 30 inches wide. So now I just have to join this piece and this piece to the side pieces. And for that, I'm gonna use the Craig jig. And every time I've used this, I've failed miserably at it. But this time I watched a video on YouTube of a guy teaching me how to do it. And I'll link that video for anyone who doesn't know how to use this little mechanism here, because it works great when you figure out how to use it. So after I made the cabinets, I brought them in to dry fit them in the space so that way I can make sure that they fit. And I'm gonna let you enjoy how this process unfolded, because it was wild and I don't know how in the end it actually worked out, but flipping this thing around and maneuvering it, eventually it did pan out. So Anyways, here's my struggles and my audio with my husband and I trying to figure out how to make these cabinets fit in the space correctly. Goes it farther that way. That side's perfect! Why is this side not perfect?
Flip it around.
Huh?
Flip it completely around. Just put that other side there.
I didn't want that other side there because this side has a hole. I guess it's gonna be covered up. Well, that's not gonna work.
That's not even, that's worse.
That's worse. Stuff is not even.
Well, you did it!
Well, wait. What? Okay, I'll take it. Take that as a win. Oh, that was hilarious. The other cabinet fit much more smoothly on the other side. I still don't know what happened with that first cabinet and how it eventually fit, but it did. I was a little nervous about taking them out to finish them because I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to get them back in the way that I had originally got it in, but it all worked out in the end. So both cabinets fit nice and snugly in the space, and it worked out great here. So this is ending day one, just getting the frame for both the cabinets built, and I love how it looks so far. All right, we're on day 2 of this cabinet making journey. So I brought the cabinets back out into the garage, and I am going to drill holes on the inside of the sides of the cabinets to hold my shelves up. So I bought this really cool tool from Craig. Well, I got it from Amazon, but it's by Craig. It's called the Shelf Pin Jig, and this is going to give me a guide to drill my holes so that way I have perfectly spaced holes inside my cabinets to sit my shelves on. And then once I have those holes, I will put the little shelf pins inside the holes to hold up the shelves. And for my shelves, I'm gonna use the same 1x12s cut to 28.5 inches long. And I am actually just gonna reuse the couple shelves that were already in the kitchen for some of the shelves. So for this next part, I'm gonna make a couple doors for my cabinets. I had a piece of scrap 1/2 inch MDF in my garage, so I decided to go ahead and just measure out to make a couple doors out of it for the cabinets. I just used my table saw to cut them down, and I thought if it didn't work out, well, no big deal because this is a scrap piece of MDF. But I liked the way it ended up looking, so I did have to go buy another piece of MDF to make a second set of doors for the other cabinet. But I think it worked out perfectly, and this was definitely the right call to add doors to these cabinets. All right, so my doors are cut. I have 2 full doors and a 3rd door. I need more MDF for a 4th door. So now I'm trying to figure out the arch. So I think I figured it out. I don't know, I've been doing this off camera because it's very frustrating. And I wanna make sure it's as close to being right as possible before I use the jigsaw and cut everything out. So basically, these are my 2 doors. I've put them together like they're gonna be. And then I measured 2 inches from the insides of this door because this is not gonna be cut. This is what's gonna be cut, this inside here. And then I need my curve at the top. So I put a thumbtack in I measured the middle of where my door would be, where my doors would be at, and then I put the thumbtack in the middle of the 2 doors and held it there with my thumb, and then I tied a pin to the opposite end of the string, and then I did the whole like tracing thing. Can't do this with one hand, but I did the whole tracing thing with the pin so that way I would get my arch, if that makes sense. So I think I have it. I am gonna cut this door. Basically use this one as a template for the other one, just to kind of double check, make sure that the arch is okay on this door. And then I'll use these doors as a template for the other two doors. So I hope that all goes good. Once I got all 4 doors cut out and the arches cut out in each of the doors, I went ahead and installed all of the hinges onto the doors. I just used a round drill bit to bore the holes for the hinges so they inset inside the doors. And then I just screwed them in, and then I went ahead and attached the doors to the cabinets as well. And I did all of this and then took the hinges off of everything before I painted and stained everything. And I did this just to make sure that all of the holes were marked and everything was in its place, so that way none of like the wood pieces would be jagged or anything like that, and I could sand everything down. Once I got the doors installed and the hinges, I want to go ahead and make the appliance cabinet doors. So I just took another piece of MDF and I cut that down in half to make 2 doors. And then I took another piece of MDF and I cut strips out of that to place on top of my doors, so that way it would mimic the cabinets that I already have on the bottom half of my kitchen. And then I just used some wood glue and I just wood glued down the strips on top of the doors, and I held them in place just with some bricks, and I made sure that they were square, and I let these dry for about 24 hours. Okay, it has gotten significantly colder since when I started this project, and I am ready for it to be done, which it's a good thing because we are in the home stretch of it. I just need to do sanding, painting, staining, and installing. So I have installed the hinges for these appliance garage doors, and I didn't film that because that was a nightmare to install. But I finally got them installed and they are super cool. I don't have the handles yet for these, so kind of have to do it this way. But they are so awesome. I am super excited. We also have to put the backs on these as well. So anyways, the plan right now is to take these off, and then sand everything down, install the backs, and then stain and install these into their spot, put molding on, and yeah, then we'll be ready to paint the outside. So I better get to work. All right, so I went ahead and removed the appliance garage doors and the hinges. I don't think I mentioned this before, but the hinges I got off of Amazon, and they came with hardly any instructions on how to apply those. So that's why I did not show that in this video, because it took a long time and a lot of figuring out, and I'm not really even sure if I did it right anyways, but they work. And now I'm going to go ahead and sand down all of the cabinetry, and then I went ahead and cut out 2 pieces of plywood for the back side of each of the cabinets. And then I just went ahead and stained half of the back side of those pieces of plywood, and then also the inside upper half of each cabinet. I wanted to stain these to give them more depth and dimension. I used Early American stain for this, which matched the rest of my house, and I just thought it would stand out a little bit more with it being stained on the inside there. And then I went ahead and attached the backs to each side of the cabinets with my finishing nail gun, and then it was time to install them. First, I did go ahead and cut out a little hole into one of the cabinets on the bottom side there, and that is for the outlet because there's an outlet inside of one of the appliance garages, which works out perfectly for the appliances. But I just cut it out with my Dremel tool, and then I just kind of moved out the outlet a little bit and attached the plate so that way it was all cohesive. Then it was time to go ahead and attach the cabinets to the wall. I already had holes for each cabinet in the tile because of the previous shelves that were there, so I used those. And then I also put some screws into the top, into the soffit above where there were studs, just to make sure everything was really secure. Up the day, I didn't film this because my phone was almost dead, but I put up some quarter round molding around the edges here on this side and over there on that side. I just used my miter shears down there to cut the corners, and then I used my nail gun to nail them up. And then I'll just put some caulking around the edges, and then I will be ready to paint everything. And we are almost finished, thank goodness. So the next day, or maybe a few days later, I'm not really sure what day I'm on at this point with these cabinets, but I am working on routering out the inside of each one of these doors so that way I can put a piece of glass where I cut out the arch and the door panel there. And it'll set nicely inside that door. So I borrowed this router tool from my father-in-law, and I got this router bit, and my husband is doing it because I was a little intimidated by this tool, but it worked out perfectly, and I was able to get those cut out. Well, he was able to get those cut out for me. And then I am going to go ahead around the edges where we routered with a Q-tip and some toothpaste. And I'm going to mark the edges there, and then I am going to place that on top of my glass. Well, it's actually not glass, it's an acrylic sheet because it's cheaper than glass and it's easier to cut than glass. I just got this sheet at the hardware store, and when I pressed the door up against the acrylic sheet, I got an outline of what I needed to cut out. So I'm just using this straight level, and then I got this cutter where the acrylic sheets are, and it just scores the acrylic sheet so that way it easily breaks off. The arch was the hardest part to do with this, but I just used the door and kept tracing and just did a little bit at a time until it broke off nicely and the glass fit nicely inside the door. So it wasn't too bad, and I did all 4 doors. Then I went ahead and I painted the outside of the cabinets and the inside of the appliance garages. I did prime everything first, and then the paint I used was a cabinet paint from Menards. I actually just went to the counter and asked them to match the color of my cabinets that I got from Menards, and they had that already in the system. They had that color, so they were able to easily mix me a gallon of paint, and then that way these will all match the color of my cabinetry, because it looks just white, but it's kind of like an off-white if you put like a real bright white up against it. So I wanted to have the same color. So I painted all of the doors and the cabinetry and let that all dry. And while that was all drying, and I did a few coats of those, I went ahead and installed these cabinet lights that are motion activated. I got them off of Amazon. You just stick them up there with 3M strips, and you stick the magnets up there with 3M strips, and then they magnetize to the top there, and they are rechargeable, and they are awesome and motion activated, so I love them. Once the doors were all dry, I went ahead and attached them back to the cabinets, and it was time to just put everything together and finally get these cabinets done. It didn't take that long, but it did take long enough that my kitchen was out of commission for about a week at least. I put the appliance garage doors and hinges back on the cabinets, and I added some new hardware I got from Amazon to the cabinetry. I love how these look. I placed my mixer and my toaster inside one of the appliance garages, and then the other one I placed some cereal and some oats in there and some nice glass containers. That way they will be easily accessible for breakfast in the morning. And then in my cabinets, I was able to put my grandma's china in there and display it. It has a nice spot instead of just out in the open collecting dust. It has a nice place for it to sit inside this cabinetry now. And then the bottom shelves, I was able to place our everyday glassware and plates that we use a lot. And let me remind you, this is what the kitchen looked like before. And this is what it looks like now with the cabinetry, and I absolutely love it. I think it elevated this kitchen and made it look more high-end, and it made it look more custom to have these cabinetry on top of the countertop. The appliance garages are absolutely my favorite thing about these. I think they are so cool, and they just kind of hide everything away, but yet I'm still able to use my counter space. So I love how this turned out. It's perfect for my kitchen. I have a few other ideas that I want to kind of elevate my kitchen, so stick around to find out how I do that later on. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to give it a thumbs up, and Happy New Year. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.